Well, good morning and welcome back. It is day 8 and we are journeying through Colossians together. We're continuing on with chapter 1 this morning, but I want you to think about this statement before we dive in. God isn't distant anymore. Let's read Colossians 1, verses 19 through 23 together. It says, "For God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in him, and through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether things on earth or things in heaven, by making peace through his blood shed on the cross. Once you were alienated from God and were enemies in your minds because of your evil behavior. But now he has reconciled you by Christ's physical body through death to present you holy in his sight, without blemish and free from accusation. If you continue in your faith, established and firm, and do not move from the hope held out in the gospel, this is the gospel that you have heard and that has been proclaimed to every creature under heaven, and of which I, Paul, have become a servant." Okay, a lot of verses. We got a lot to unpack together, so let's go. First, we see that through Jesus, God reconciles all things back to himself. What does that mean? Well, simply put, sin separates us from God. And we all sin. Every single one of us. No one's perfect. If you're thinking to yourself, "I've never sinned," you just sinned because you're lying to yourself. We've all sinned. And what sin does is it separates us from God. And because he is a holy God, sin cannot dwell in his presence. We can't come into his presence living in sin. There is going to be a moment when we bring our sin in his presence where those two things cannot coexist together. So where God is, sin can't be. And if we're full of sin, there was a necessity of a sacrifice in order to reconcile us back to the Father. And that's where Jesus comes in, the Son of God, the Lamb slain before the foundations of the world. He was sent to reconcile us back to the Father. Now, that word reconcile is big. I want you to get this. It's not the same thing as forgiveness. See, forgiveness is actually a part of the reconciliation process, but the reconciliation process is bigger than just forgiveness. We start with forgiveness. We start with receiving what he's done for us, but reconciliation moves beyond forgiveness and now us walking in the newness of life. Because Jesus shed his blood and because he died for us to bring us back to the Father, here's a beautiful thing that happens. Not only are we reconciled back to the Father, but we have peace with God. The thing, sin that separated us from God has been handled. It's been handled on the cross. All of our sins have already been judged, and we who are far from Christ have been brought back into closeness with him, and it truly is a beautiful thing. But Paul goes further beyond that to explain what this means. You see, in our sin, we were alienated from God. Said differently, we were distant from God. Paul says we were enemies from God because of our evil behavior. But Jesus, in his obedience to the Father, he doesn't just bring us back to the Father, but through the redemptive work on the cross, we are now able to present ourselves as holy, not because of what we've done, but because of what he has done. And that is a powerful truth. Jesus didn't bring us halfway home. He brought us all the way home, closing the gap as that mediator between humanity and God. And so God is no longer distant with us because through Jesus, we are home with the Father once again. Now, here's my question for you. If God is no longer distant from you, are there any things that you are doing to distance yourself from God? You may not be doing this knowingly. Maybe this is behavior you're not proud of, but sit with this for a second. Are there any areas in our life where we don't bring God into them? Are there areas of our life where we keep hidden or covered and we don't let him in? My friend, I'm gonna tell you that if you keep doing that, you're gonna create a distance between you and God that he doesn't want to exist. So the antidote to that is to come to him today, bring those things to him, and allow God to close that gap. You're no longer distant to the Father. Let's live in closeness together with him. That's it for today. We'll see you back tomorrow.